My favorite is the first one, because it fits with my point of view. Sex is emotion in motion. This is Mae West, who seemed to have a really real ability to say very witty things. But this one I like in particular because what it says in a nutshell is what attachment theory tells us, which is the way you deal with your emotion, which is a physiological response. Emotions are in the body. The way you deal with your emotion and express your emotion and your emotional connection to your partner will have a huge impact on how you are in bed, on your motives for sex, how you express your sexuality, and your experience of sexuality. So in fact, Mae West was very wise and said in a nutshell what we talk about in sexuality, and captures a lot of the message of the attachment theorists about sexuality. This one, the next one, says almost the same thing. In sex, affect-regulated interactions predominate because of the emphasis on desire, arousal, and non-verbal communication. That's quite interesting because it seems to me when we look outside into the world, what your couples are faced with that you're going to see in therapy and what you are faced with is an enormous amount of sexuality that is completely divorced from affect. It is emotionless sex. An awful lot of pornography, an awful lot of focus on the thrill, novel techniques, which don't seem to have much to do with emotion. So why don't I state right up front that my position on that is that emotion is the music of the dance in bed and out of bed, and that emotionless sex, from my point of view and from an attachment point of view, is like dancing without music. It's one-dimensional. And if you think about dancing without music, emotionless sex, it makes synchrony between the partners who are dancing almost impossible because there isn't any music. And also, if I'm going to dance without music, I probably am going to need the moves to be huge and the steps to be very large and very different all the time, because after all, there isn't any music playing. So I really like these two quotes a lot. Another one by Adler says, to the extent we are emotionally responsive to someone, we are physiologically responsive to them. And attachment, which is the approach to therapy and to relationships that EFT is based on, really focuses on building responsiveness between partners. So here in this seminar, we're looking at responsiveness not just from an emotional point of view, but how that translates into physical responsiveness. And I had to put one in that gave a little spiritual tack on sexuality. And the light that shines above the heavenly vault, its actual manifestation is the warmth that is felt when the flesh is touched. The wonderfully ambiguous thing about touch is that it is soothing and it can also be arousing and stimulating. And that is a kind of dichotomy that I think is true of sexuality. From an attachment point of view, sexuality and bonding naturally go together, especially in mammals who rear their young together. This is Jeremy Holmes, who wrote a wonderful book called Attachment, Intimacy and Autonomy in '96. He says, real pleasure in sex is about proximity, play and nurturance, rather than orgasmic discharge. Well, our society seems to be pretty obsessed with orgasmic discharge, with the big O. Maybe if we back off and think about it, that's a little bit like ignoring the symphony because all you're doing is waiting for the crescendo of drums at the end. You could think about it like that. From an EFT point of view, sexuality is a very rich experience, and to just focus on orgasm seems very one-dimensional. So let me give a contrast to all this. Cosmopolitan magazine, 2006. says that the secret to sex is hot new sexual positions. Not sure how many we can come up with. We are a little limited. But they are suggesting in a doorway, while having a bath, and I love this one, on top of a running washing machine, or on a kitchen counter. As a local journalist points out, in spite of this magazine being such a purveyor of such lists, this list is a letdown. Yeah. And what I'm going to suggest is that any approach to sexuality that focuses purely on performance and sensation and a constant searching after novelty is going to be a letdown. Because from my point of view as a couples therapist and an attachment theorist, it's one-dimensional.